Welcome back to GMA3. Opening statements began today in a Manhattan courtroom as former President Donald Trump stands trial on criminal charges, a first in our nation's history. The former president is accused of falsifying business records over an alleged 2016 hush money payment to adult film actress Stormy Daniels. He's pleaded not guilty and denies any wrongdoing.
And joining us now, attorney and ABC News contributor Brian Buckmire, and from outside the courthouse, ABC News senior investigative correspondent Aaron Katersky. Aaron, we'll start with you outside the courthouse there. The trial's getting underway. What are you hearing about the expected timeline, and what witnesses should we expect early on here?
This case is going to last perhaps 6 weeks, Will, and the first witness is going to be David Pecker, the former publisher of the National Enquirer. According to prosecutors, he was at the center of this alleged scheme to buy and bury unflattering stories about Donald Trump before the 2016 election. And one of those stories was Stephanie Clifford's, better known as the porn actress Stormy Daniels. She had a tale to tell about a sexual encounter with Trump that he denies. And in order to keep her quiet about it, the campaign decided it would be best to pay her $130,000. The defense says there's nothing unusual about wealthy people paying hush money as part of non-disclosure agreements, but prosecutors say the way that payment was logged constituted the crime of falsifying business records because it was done with the intent to keep information away from voters before the 2016 election.
Brian, what's the biggest challenge that prosecutors are going to face here?
I actually see probably two large challenges here. One, the prosecution has to make sense of taking what is often a misdemeanor case and connecting it to what might be federal election interference, and that's why we're at a felony and not a misdemeanor. But also another large issue that they have to do is prove that a person, specifically Michael Cohen, who is known to be a liar to the courts, to Congress, to investigators, is now telling the truth here in this case when he, being the star witness, testifies against Donald Trump and basically lays out their case for them.
Aaron, what kind of sentence is former President Trump facing if he is indeed convicted?
If he's convicted, it's possible, Will, that he could face up to 4 years in prison. But prosecutors would have to ask for it, and having a former president serve prison time just seems highly unlikely and perhaps, would really test the system in a way that it's never been tested before, as have all of these criminal cases that the former president is facing. But in theory, up to 4 years in prison if he is convicted as charged of falsifying 34 business records.
Brian, former President Trump says he wants to testify in this case, so what can we expect to hear?
If he testifies, we've already kind of seen a bit of a glimpse of this because he comes out after every day and gives us his take on the case. He's already said that this was a legal expense. And so if he testified, which I would probably highly recommend that he shouldn't, I would expect him to say, hey, I asked Michael Cohen to do a job for me. He did a job for me. I wrote it down as a legal expense. What's the problem? But that admits to a large portion of what the prosecutor's alleging in this case. And so I think we're still not quite sure whether or not he's going to testify. He's told us that he was and he wants to. I think that's more testing the waters. But time will tell as to whether or not his attorneys convince him to testify or not. But ultimately, like any criminal defendant, it's his right to choose that, and no one else can tell him otherwise.
Brian Buckmire and Aaron Katersky hitting every angle for us as former President Trump's hush money trial gets underway in Manhattan.